Hello, everyone, and welcome to
Weezcast.
I am your host, Aiden Morden, with co-host
Caleb Chassis.
and co-host
Stephen Prindler.
and special guest.
Mat Genier.
Today we are going to be listening to Weezer's Black album on vinyl and then giving our thoughts and opinions. So we're going to go listen to that and we will be right back to discuss it. Alright, we are back from listening to the Black album on vinyl and we're going to kick it off with Can't Knock the Hustle, and I'd like to give it to our guest to start because I would like to hear his initial thoughts from what is probably his first full Weezer album straight through, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I've listened to a couple of albums of their initial three.
Okay.
It's been a long time, but yeah, so this is my first recent, just all the way listened through of this album. Very cool. I would say very pop feel, but going to the Can't Knock the Hustle had a very catchy vibe to it. Lyrics. I try to analyze songs in three ways: looking at the lyrics, the music, and the overall feel. That's how I usually go about listening to a song. So this one, the lyrics were very catchy, almost relatable in a way, where it's like going to work, all that style. So it was very like, yeah, I can relate to this. Always having to go day by day, work harder to go through life. So it had that vibe to it. And the music aspect is really cool. Like the beat itself, the drum. Always love when they have like just a strong beat and tempo that just kind of keeps the song moving. And also had a small gospel feel. Like there was a little bit of like
Like it sounds like a choir with the Hasta Luego.
Yeah, so like you had a bit of that in the background. It wasn't very obvious, but like it did add a bit to it.
I noticed.
Like I've never thought of that before, but now that you say it, I can hear what you mean. Like,
yeah,
it's definitely not a gospel song, but it's got a little bit of a gospel vibe.
Yeah, so that was how I was feeling. And then you have the bass and guitar had a bit of a funk feel. Which really made for a unique listen to. So I just think it was a cool jam altogether.
Okay. Steven?
First thing I noticed was when the song starts, it sounds really bad quality. With the drums, it's like boo boo ksh, and it just sounds like muffled. Like there's a distortion or something on it, and I'm like, oh, is this like Pinkerton again? But then he starts singing, and then it changes, and it's just like pristine quality. It's like, oh, it was a fake out. And then it doesn't go bad quality again. It was just like, just kidding.
Well, I will say something on that note about the beginning of the song. This isn't something that I had written, but how it kind of has that sound. I almost view it as it sounds like you're walking up to somewhere, and you're hearing it. You know, whenever you walk up to a venue or something.
It sounds far away.
Yeah, it sounds far away, like it's inside, and then you open the door and you can hear it clearly. It feels like the opening of the album is like that, like you're walking up to
I didn't think
the album, and then open the door and boom, there it is.
I can see that.
And it's a great time. So, please continue.
It is a great song. It's like really groovy, I guess. It's easy to, bop your head to. And it's got Mexican vibes to me. I mean, he says hasta luego, which is Spanish, right?
Yeah.
So it seems
it's
pretty
Chinese.
Mexican. Thanks. Also, one of the first things he says is a big F word, which is a first for Weezer. So that's like another big surprise. And but he only says it once, so it's still PG-13
For now.
for now. Yeah, and then the song seems like he's really kind of badass, just taking life by the throat and just doing things his way. So it's cool.
I will say, I love the Mexican sound to it, like you said as well. It is very catchy. Rivers usually doesn't have trumpet as well, so that was really cool to hear, like, for one of the first times, him trying something out different. Also, once again, we get Weezer talking about Mexicans.
He didn't talk about
like
Mexicans.
from Pacific Daydream.
And the white, I think he talked about it in a few songs.
Yeah.
He is really into the Mexicans now.
He switched gears because initially it was the half Japanese girls.
Imagine
in the earlier albums he really liked Asian women.
Until he married one and then he switched to Mexican.
That's what I've been trying to say. But imagine this, but a Chinese version, that would not sound good. So
a Chinese version of Can't Knock the Hustle.
Yeah.
It has like going. Okay.
I kind of want to hear that now.
I think it wouldn't actually be that bad, to be
I
honest.
think it would be
But
pretty good.
come on, it flows better with Mexicans. So okay, I'm just gonna stop.
All right. Well, actually, first thing I've written is very Spanish funky vibe. When this song came out, this was, I think, this would have been the third album that Weezer released after I started listening to them, and for me, with everything prior, this song came out and I was like, what on earth? I was like, did Rivers just say the F word? What? That's so bad. And I didn't like the song. I don't know, it gave me bad vibes, and I didn't really like it that much. So I wasn't really that excited for the Black album. Now I absolutely love it. It's an absolute banger of a song.
You menace.
And he owns up. He's like, I love that it's almost like a throwback, or not even a throwback, because he never really stopped self-deprecating. But the fact that he calls himself an ugly mother effer is like, he's starting off right there just dissing himself, which is like classic Rivers, but it's like very harsh. As far as the music, the combo of the bass, the brass, and the acoustic guitar is really unique, and a couple lines that I really like are "The future's so bright, I gotta poke my eyes out."
Yep.
Instead of "The future's so bright, I gotta wear shades." And then the part where it has like the little solo there, I don't know what kind of instrument it is, because it almost sounds like it's a violin but with distortion on it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's an electric violin, but that part where it does the like fun little groovy Spanish little riff on there, and he says, "Don't step to me, don't step to me." That part kind of, it brings a smile on my face every time, just because it's kind of funny. Because like you were saying, Steven, it's like that. Or actually, and like Matt was saying too, with it just being like relatable. Like I think the comparison that he's making is like being an Uber driver. Is like the example he's using, because he's like saying, leave a 5-star review and I'll leave you one too. And it's like, you know, you can't knock the hustle. Like, I'm doing what I need to get by.
The music video is an Uber, I'm pretty sure.
And this is my job, and yeah, don't step to me. So I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, so this song needs to die so we can go kill bastards. So
Yeah, the zombie bastards. Steven, care to start us off?
Sure. Zombie Bastards. It's an interesting song because it's a slow song, and it's not completely acoustic, but it is mostly, I think. But it's about like killing zombies, which you would think would be like a really hard rock song, like die, die, you zombie bastards. But no, it's slow and soft. This is the first time listening to it where I really paid attention to the lyrics, and it sounds like in the first verse he's talking about being a kid and like playing Dodge the Raindrops, and he says Kool-Aid is flowing through my veins. So he's talking about being a kid, and like, that's interesting. Where's he going with this? And then the second verse he talks about not wanting to pump diesel for mean people, and he doesn't know kung fu or karate, but he's gonna fight back with his words. So it sounds like he's trying to beat the system and like fight against I don't know, the fact like it's our society is so built around working, and like, not that work is a bad thing, but like everyone's so overworked all the time and everyone's working all the time. It's like he just wants to live his life and not be a zombie. Like, everyone else is just always working, and he wants to actually live his life, like he says in the bridge. And I don't know, it's just it's interesting, and it sounds good. Of course, every song has to sound good. And
It's a very interesting theory.
yeah, and I like the piano. Bing, 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 bing.
Yeah, that's very good. That's one of my notes as well.
Yeah. And the do 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 do. And the last thing is he references getting cast out of Egypt. It's a sarcastic line. He says, "Listen to reason, or you'll get cast out of Egypt." So, like, obviously when the Israelites were cast out of Egypt in the Bible, that was a good thing because they were slaves. And so when they left Egypt, they were missing the comforts of Egypt, where they had, good food to eat, but they ultimately were living their lives more fully and the way they were supposed to. Even though it was a struggle, they had gotten away from slavery and into where God had called them. So I just thought that was a cool side thing.
yeah, I've really enjoyed like the song. It's probably one up there and like stands out and amongst the album. The lyrics were interesting, very catchy. I do like the one pre-chorus. That's right, music saved my life. So that's kind of I feel like it makes a contrast to like then going to this, the chorus that you die, you zombie bastards. So I feel it's like just shows like he doesn't. This is what's keeping him from being a zombie kind of thing. So it's just kind of like a small line, but I think that's a cool line to add in there. And I love how in the music aspect, the verses are very different, contrasting to the the chorus. Sorry, because the verses are very pop and feel, and then the chorus has a very electronic feel, like very like energetic. Even though it's a bit more of a soft, like a slower song, but it does add to it. So like you go from like very soft and then very like loud and energetic. So like it's very fun to go back and forth between those two modes of feel throughout the song. And it's just a very cool vibe throughout the song. So yeah.
Especially going back into the second verse after the first chorus, I feel like that is the greatest transition, where it dies right back down and gets back on track.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Alright, so this song I have a little bit more to say about. I love the guitar style, like you were all saying, the piano as well. And actually, I'm pretty sure, so White and Pacific Daydream were not received well, which I think you knew that. I'm pretty sure that this song is about Weezer haters. Aiden and I have talked about it a little bit, and that's why they're called the Zombie Bastards, is because they... Aiden will explain it. But, I mean, that's all I'm gonna really say. But it does almost sound like it has, like, a mixed interpretation with, like, talking about kind of like what they're talking about, but
Yeah,
also...
actually, because when Steven explained that, I thought that actually makes a lot of sense.
So it feels like it's, like, Weezer's done that before, where it's, like, a bunch of things.
Yeah, like it can mean two different things.
But that's the cool part about making songs is that you can give it multiple interpretations and kind of leave it out there so that people can take what they want from
Exactly, and they can make a podcast about it.
Yeah, perfect.
But, I'm just gonna say that the line, don't know karate or kung fu, but I'm gonna make it in this world, sounds like people really hate Weezer that bad now, in my interpretation. Which, I mean, it's not that bad. Come on, like, Pacific Daydream and White weren't the worst thing. Like, I could name, like, 100 other artists that fail to do better, or even more. So, yeah.
I think this song is very quaint. It's got a really quaint feel to it, and it's got a great vibe. Almost like an island vibe with the main acoustic riff. It's very islandy and fun. It's very acoustic driven. I wouldn't say it's an acoustic song. Stephen, like, I think what you were trying to explain was like it's very, the acoustic guitar is like the primary instrument in it, and that's what everything else builds off of. And I really like that. I think it's pretty cool. And yeah, so kind of what Caleb's saying. I don't remember where I read about it, but I'm almost certain that I read from some sort of official thing.
I've looked online multiple times, and the facts are about that as well.
But that, yeah, this song is basically like Rivers' tribute to the haters, because Weezer gets so much hate from every angle, from, like, no matter what they do, they always have a ton of fans. Like, 80% of their fans aren't happy no matter what they do. I love every Weezer album,
Same.
even the ones that aren't quite as good. I'm not one of these people. But, yeah, so it's kind of like, I'm going to live my life, and he's kind of saying that he's going to, like how this album's experimental. If he lives his life, or if he dies, that means he lived his life, and that's much better than hiding in a hole. Like, he would rather branch out and explore more musically than to just...
Not be an artist?
Yeah, or to even just stick with the same format as always, and not grow as a musician, because a lot of bands do grow as musicians and then they end up sucking and they kind of fall off. But I feel like Weezer expands so much, and in my opinion anyway, they nail it basically every time.
I think so.
Like a couple songs occasionally here and there,
like Da Vinci.
The really popping bass and fun little piano riff that Steven was talking about, and the electric leads sound so good together. Caleb, would you like to start us off with High as a Kite?
I would love to. I love how it transitions to Zombie Bastards to High as a Kite. That was one thing I always look forward to when I listen to both of them. And I like the chimes in the beginning of it. It's soft and pleasant. So I always thought of this song before I actually understood the lyrics. I always thought of it as meaning drugs, because it's like I'm high as a kite. but now, like, I don't think that anymore, unless, but, this album seems a lot like, he's done with the game of life. Not the board game of life, but I like how the bridge changes with the guitar, and then it changes back to the piano, and then it goes into the song again, the chorus, and the bass is one of the biggest highlights in this song for sure.
Oh yeah, even on this whole album, the bass is very...
Like, you don't notice it as much as you should, but maybe even as much as Pacific Daydream, honestly.
I would say more even.
Yeah, it's like heavily on bass as well.
Yeah, the song, when I was listening to the lyrics, I definitely had the message of trying to either escape reality or being in a headspace. Sometimes it did seem like, this could be about drugs, but I think it's not.
Yeah.
But it definitely makes it like not very clear, so ambiguous, so you can interpret it how you like. But I do feel like it's more about like escaping reality. So like that's the kind of the vibe I got from the lyrics, and the music had a very alternative feel. It almost felt like the beginning of the song. I was like, oh, is this gonna be a sad song? Like just by the way it was playing out, and it's like it does have that small element like this is kind of sad in a way. But it does kind of moves away from that a bit more alternative and then pop feel. But it was a very interesting ride to like transition from like what is like listening. Okay, where is this taking me? Like this trip. That's very cool.
Yeah, the song is about escapism, you could say in general, but seeing as how many times he references drugs on this album, and since he's literally singing about being high.
Yeah, I think it's a safe bet.
Yeah, it's a safe bet that he's using drugs as an escape. But he is saying high as a kite, as in like he sings about being up in the clouds, so like imagining he's flying, which, sounds like he's high, but...
Yeah, that's why I thought that.
Yeah, well, that's probably, it is what it is. But if you'd rather think of it in more general terms, it works in that way as well. I love the verses. I think they're beautiful. And the chorus, it's like, it's also good, but I feel like his singing is not the greatest. And it's like his singing is really good in the verses.
Yeah,
but
I was
in
going
the
to say
chorus,
that.
it doesn't sound as good.
How dare you?
It feels like it's almost like a letdown, because you want it to escalate, right, and sound even better for the chorus, but it sounds kind of worse, and it's like, ugh.
I don't know.
Oh well. But overall, it's still a good song. I can't relate to it because I've never been high, and it's kind of sad in that way. But I can relate to it in the way that, like, the escapism aspect, I have other ways of doing that. And then I don't know what was happening at the bridge. Like, it just went off the rails.
Yeah, it really did.
Hey, he's too high to finish.
Basically, it just like kind of went wonky and didn't sound good anymore. But then it went back to the chorus and it sounded good again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
So I think this is a really solid, vibey song. I don't love that it's about drug usage. Like, I'm pretty sure, like Steven's saying, it's pretty safe to say it is about drugs, but it is kind of cool that you could interpret it whatever
It's
way.
a mixed feeling.
So, like,
song
if your
as
mom
well.
hears you listening to it, then no, it's not about drugs. It's just about escapism. But, like, if we're real with ourselves, it's a song about drugs. Sorry, Mom. For a slow song like that, for, like, how slow it is, the bass line in it is, I could only describe as wicked. It is a wicked bass line for a
that
slow
is
song.
true.
Like, ooh, it's so good. The lyrics also are really eloquently written. They're very, like, poetic and nice, and they fit the vibe of the music. The mix for this song too. This is the first song that I noticed, like, wow, the mix in this album is really, really good.
Yes.
Like, it's not as quality in content as, like, Make Believe, but as far as the production value, it's, like, really up there.
It's so good I didn't even notice.
So yeah, the bridge goes, like, all scary. It's almost like you're picturing him up in the clouds, and then when he's talking about the nightmare chase and stuff, it's like the clouds are turning really gray and stormy. But then before it goes back to the chorus, there's the second half of the bridge, and the bass is doing like the high notes with the vocals, and it sounds so nice, and it goes back to much more of a soothing sound, and it's very good. I really like that song. Matt, Living in LA?
Yeah. The first thing I thought of when the song starts is like, I'm Back in Black. That kind of sounds like a small homage to AC/DC, Back in Black, which makes sense. It fits with the album, it fits everything. So it's like, that line, I think I see what you did there. It was very interesting, the song. Let me see here, my notes. Had a really cool pop beat. I like the sound effects that they were using on like the reverb of the guitar and like the mix of it, which is very interesting to me. And just like the listen is like, oh yeah, this is a very unique sound that they did that makes it different from the previous songs on this album. It just kind of stands out in a different way. So I thought that was really cool.
Cool. This song, I find as soon as it comes on, it instantly demands your attention with the spicy drum beat. Like the drums, it's very simple, it's very steady, but it sounds great. And the reverb that you're talking about, is it like the guitar that's going like ba bum ba bum bum bum?
I think
like
so,
it's
yeah.
like more abrupt, and it sounds like it's far away almost, and it just fits with the beat so well.
Yeah.
I really, really like that as well. And I love how the bridge has like somber undertones. When he's like saying looking for a fight, pretending we don't want each other. I really like that line. And then going back into the chorus too. There's one part where Pat does something a little bit different with the drums. That's just so. It's so good. So I really like Living in LA. I don't live there, but I like the song. So.
Nice. Yeah, the song sounds pretty great. Like, if you're in the mood for an upbeat song, this will not disappoint, because it's a good upbeat song. As far as the lyrics go, I don't really understand. It seems like contradictory. He's talking about being with someone, but also being alone. So, like, it seems like he's in a very unsatisfying relationship where they're just not connecting. And somehow that relates to living in LA.
Well, no, I think that what he's singing about is like that it's not that they're in a relationship, it's that he wants to be in a relationship with her, but isn't sure if she wants to be in a relationship with him. I think that's like the pretending we don't want each other thing. It's almost like they're like, it's like a will they won't they type thing in the relationship. That's what the song seems like to me. So he's like, he's lonely living in LA, and it's like he's waiting for her to just, stop being difficult.
Is she why he's living in LA?
Probably.
I don't know. It doesn't say. He just kind of randomly says living in LA. Like it has nothing to do with the rest of the song.
Yeah, I did find that weird. It's like that line just didn't seem to fit with everything else. So.
Yeah, it's like, is that typical for living in LA? Is that something?
Lady gets so lonely.
Is that a trademark of that place? I don't know.
Must be where she is.
Well, I did not put much, but I do absolutely love this song. It's one of my favorites on this album. It's such a banger. The guitar back and forth with the acoustic and the electric, and just the acoustic alone is fantastic. And I like the melody of it, and I just like the song in general.
Cool. I'm going to start us off for Piece of Cake. I remember the first time I listened through this album, and when this song came on, because even like the drug references in the other song, it was much more like, okay, like he's singing about getting high, whatever. Even the swearing in Can't Knock the Hustle, it's like, okay, I kind of am getting a certain vibe from this album. And then this song starts off with, let's do hard drugs, solve our problems. And even just the way that he's singing it and the way the piano goes. The first song I listened to it, I was like, what? And I did not like it. Now I've actually grown to appreciate it. I really like the way that the piano progresses. It's a little bit fun, it has a little bit of a sad sound to it too. And I don't think he's literally suggesting doing hard drugs, because that's not something that Weezer typically stands for. I mean, I'm certain they smoke weed, but they're not really strong advocates for hard drugs. I think it's just
technically they've only well, the only thing they talked about is hash pipe.
Yeah.
So technically.
Give me some of that stuff.
I think he's just kind of expressing like he's in a lot of pain. It's obviously a song about heartbreak. She cut me like a piece of cake. And this song's another one with really groovy bass and really chill vibes. And it's also neat because most songs, usually it'll have like a chorus, a bridge, and a chorus at the end. But this song actually, after the bridge, he adds in an extra verse, which is so unusual.
I noticed that.
And it's a good verse at that. Like, have some more Sprite. I love Sprite. But yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
It's a fun song, and I like the way the verses stop. Like, the music stops, and then the bass drum comes in with the verses. And, like, yeah, this album is also really heavy on the drums. Probably the most I've noticed in a Weezer album. And I like that. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about it. I like the song overall. I like the melody of it, and I like the way it's composed. And yeah, it's a fun song.
I like the analogy that he uses. She cut me like a piece of cake. It just sounds funny.
Weezer's been threatened.
Like, it's a breakup song where she's left him and cut him, not literally, but like hurt him. And to say like a piece of cake is like it was easy, I guess. Like she didn't think anything of it, and he's here like dwelling on it and feeling heartbroken and like a piece of cake. But it's a pretty nice sounding song. It's like, I don't know, nothing really stood out to me about it except like talking about drugs again. And I did really like, and the Sprite product placement.
Mm-hmm.
Like, was that a sponsor? But I really liked the bridge. I don't remember specifically what I liked about it because I didn't write it down. I just wrote down that I liked the bridge. But I think the bridge sounded really nice. I don't remember if he said anything that I liked in it. But the song has a lot of do-do-do, like every other line or after every verse.
Weezer wants to do.
But it's okay because I like those.
I found this song kind of interesting, weird in a way. Like the lyrics were kind of funny in a way, and nonsensical. Like going to the bridge. Now I'm hanging out with a kitty cat named Beauclair on my lap. Or Baudelaire. I'm like, it's like that's a strange vibe. I was like, must be a high or something. It's just strange, the whole song. Even though it's talking about like a breakup, I'm like, that's a weird way of like writing a song about a breakup. Just like make it funny as you can.
I think a lot of times in songs like that, whenever he's very specific like that, I don't know if that's the case with this one, but in a lot of them, he's actually referencing like actual things from his life. So it's very possible that he was going through a breakup, and not when he wrote this because he's been happily married for like 14 years or something like that. But referencing in a time when he was broken up with and like had a kitty cat named Baudelaire. So it is possible that's...
Interesting thing I noticed, the name Baudelaire. If you're familiar with the series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket, the children, their last name is Baudelaire.
Oh,
so
yeah, they are.
That might be a reference to that, where it just like he feels like a series of unfortunate events.
That's a nice catch right there. And then overall, the beat of the drums is really smooth, and it feels like a song you'd listen to while driving.
At night in the city.
Yeah, at night in the city, specifically that. That's where my thoughts was going.
True that. Now we're flipping here to side B of the album.
Because you have too many thoughts in your head?
Yes, but first, I'm just being honest here. Second half of the album really drops off, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, like the first half of the album is like golden, and then we're progressively.
Amen.
Well, we'll get there. We'll
I'm
take
just being honest. I disagree.
Oh, okay. Well, Steven, you start us off then with this song.
Sweet. I love this song. I find it super relatable because honesty is something I value like more than anyone else that I know. Like the people that I know do value honesty a lot, but there comes a point when everyone's like, you can tell a white lie to make someone feel better. Whereas I'm like, I'd rather just be honest and like not lie to someone, even if it hurts a little bit, because in my opinion, I'm just being honest. The truth is, the truth heals more than the truth hurts, which is a line from another song. But I think like just it's a policy pretty much. Like if I'm always 100% honest, then like you'll never have to worry that I'm lying to you ever, because I just don't ever do it.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I found the song super relatable because he's singing about being honest and then people getting mad at him for it, because he's kind of being rude, which is like people get mad at me for being too honest, and I can get in trouble because I'm like, well, I don't want to lie, but sometimes maybe I should just keep my mouth shut.
Too many thoughts in your head.
But yeah, I like the song because of that.
No, too many thoughts in his mouth.
I'm gonna say, so I'm just being honest here. So there's a group of lines. Sorry, I'm messing up today. A group of lines that say, you gave me your CD for me to listen to, and I listened through halfway through the album, and I had to quit because it sucks. And actually, a lot of people recommend albums or artists to me, and I'm always looking through them, trying to see what I like, and usually I'm like, this sucks, so I understand that specifically. And Weezer's Irish, apparently, if I'm not
He's
mistaken.
got Irish roots. Rivers does, I think.
And also, yeah, it's funny. This is not really important, but when I was thinking about cutting my hair, without realizing, he said the line about him cutting his hair. So that's all I have to say.
Okay.
It's a sign.
Yeah, I'm gonna go something. Usually, I always start with the lyrics, but I'm gonna go with like the music. I love the cool effects on the guitar. Like I don't know, it just sounded like really interesting, and the exploding intro in the song was like really caught me off guard, because it started off kind of soft, like, and then like exploded with like a lot of energy. I was like, oh, that really caught me off guard there. The lyrics are very relatable, and like you said, it's all about like being honest, not and like almost offending people by being too honest. I feel like the first verse of like listening to music can be taken in that way, where like Caleb said, where like you don't like people recommend songs or albums or whatever it be, and then you don't like it. But I feel like it's also like a critique of the mindset where people are not giving things a chance and saying it sounds bad instead of just actually like taking the full time and attention it takes to go through something and then make an opinionated education, or give a fully opinionated educated opinion from like listen to everything instead of just listening halfway and then saying it sucks.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of things that people like, they won't even try something. They'll just like try the first part and then like, oh, it sucks, that's not for me. Like I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, like if this album was side B was side A and side A was side B, I would probably turn it off halfway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
if
like
we're anything but Weezer.
So I think that's like how I interpret that part, and then like being too honest, it's kind of like, okay, should I just always say my opinion, like, well, I'm being honest. I think that's sometimes an excuse for a lot of people, so that song I feel like reflects that in a way. Compared to like you, or like you're like, hey, you're being truthfully honest, but some people are just being I'm being honest, but their intent is just giving their opinion no matter if it hurts or not. It's not in being honest. I think that is something where like this song is like, yep, I relate to like that's where my mind goes when I listen to that. It's like I thought that was really
almost like
interesting.
it's a justification, like, oh, I'm being honest, so I can say whatever I want.
Yeah.
And be rude and condescending about it.
Okay, I'll be honest.
I feel
you
personally
suck,
attacked
Aiden.
right now.
Thank you so
And
much.
you need to be off the show.
No. It's
Personally attacked.
no. It's okay. We're not attacking you.
Hey, I didn't say that you suck.
He said I suck for some reason.
Yeah, you literally were attacking Aiden, but no, just because.
Like what? I didn't do anything. I didn't even share my opinion yet. Okay.
I'm sorry.
You asked for my honest thoughts.
The best part of the song is the electric guitar, which sounds really rattly. I don't know if you're talking about the same thing. How the guitar, it's got a really... It doesn't even sound super distorted. It just sounds really rattly. And it sounds a little juicy, which
Like
is
a
nice
bit of
for
reverb.
guitar. So it's like...
Yeah.
It sounds to me like the guitar is tuned way down. Like, they usually play E flat, but it sounds to me like they're doing a much lower tuning or something. Like, and the strings actually have that physical rattle to them. It might just be effects. I don't know, but I love that sound. This song kind of rubs me the wrong way a bit because he's being kind of rude, but also I guess he is just being honest. So kind of like, I kind of more agree with Matt. Like, I think there's a time and place. Like, you should always be honest if it comes down to you really need to say something. But I think also it's not the worst thing in the world if you have to, like, kind of evade giving an answer entirely for the sake of saving
face.
Yeah, like, I mean, sometimes you gotta hurt people's feelings. It's just the way it is.
Oh yeah.
But if there's a workaround, and I think that sometimes, I'm not saying you do this, Stephen. I'm just saying that, like,
Thanks for clarifying.
Like what Matt's saying with using it as a justification. It's like people can tend to be not even just that they're giving their opinion, but they're like overtly rude about it, and it's like they're so caught up in their own opinion that they're like, screw you, whatever. They don't care.
Well, if they're if they don't, then they'll have too many thoughts in their head.
Yeah, and I'm gonna start off that one. We all finished with the other, correct?
I believe so.
Yep.
Okay, well, we switched it up a little bit here,
Good
so
segue.
we're gonna go.
Yep,
We're gonna go this way, and another drug song, but this one's, huh?
I just said, hey.
Oh, another drug song, but this one's not catchy.
Thank you.
The verses do have a nice progression that reminds me of a cowboy on a horse riding intensely towards his destiny, but other than that, there's not much in it for me. I think that the wah pedal usage in this song is like, I'm a fan of the wah pedal. I think it's great, but every single time they hit a note on the electric guitar in this song, it's wow 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 wee, wow wow. It's too much entirely, and I think it's largely to blame for ruining the song because it does not sound good. Like, that's not how you should use a wah pedal. The other thing that actually though that I will say is I love the bridge. Apparently the Lawrence Welk line, like, I don't love it lyrically, I just love the way that it sounds. But the Lawrence Welk line that he says, I guess that's from an old show, and there was a band that played for that old show, and they were called Weasel. And when Weezer stepped on the scene, people were getting them confused. I don't know if it was Weasel, but it was something very similar to Weezer. And people were getting them confused, and they'd be like, oh, you're the ones from that Lawrence Welk show, or whatever, something like that. I found out about that recently. Because I never knew what that line was about, and then I heard something about, I think one of my parents said something about Lawrence Welk or something when I had mentioned Weezer. And then I looked it up. Because I was like, I guess there is a reason for that.
Okay, boomers.
Now the second bridge, because I think he does a first bridge and then a chorus and then another bridge, last bridge. Worst part of the entire album, I think. The way that he's like, it reminds me of Gwen Stefani in the song "Holla Back Girl." If you know that song. It's like he's singing like whiny Gwen Stefani, and I do not like it at all.
I thought it was funny.
I don't know. I can't get past it on this one. I'm sorry, Rivers. Please be on Weezcast. Please be our special guest.
Explain everything.
He's just being honest.
Okay, here's the thing. I exactly wrote in my notes, worst song on the album as well. Because here's the thing. There's nothing good about it.
He's out of line, but he's right.
What? The only thing that would be actually cool to say to someone that actually would be cool would be to go to someone and be like, I'm so high on cookies, it's insane. Because
right.
It's such a weird thing to say. Yeah. I hate that song, so I don't have much to say.
Thank you.
I'm next.
I value your opinion, and I appreciate it.
I go next?
Although I will listen to it once in a while, but I do not really like it.
I didn't write down anything about the music in the song, which means it didn't stand out to me as really good or really bad. I can't even remember how it went. But I do remember that I found the lyrics really fascinating because they seem to be about just the constant streaming of information in this era, the information era, obviously. Like, we're constantly overloaded with books, movies, all this internet stuff. He says he's high on cookies, which I think means, like, internet cookies. Because he was just talking about, like, all these different sources of information that are putting.
That's actually that's really interesting because, like, they make, like, weed cookies. So I assume that's what he meant.
I just figured in the context of the song,
Yeah.
that made more sense.
I was thinking of that too.
Yeah.
Does anybody know what Chopra is? Or whatever it is?
Chopra
No.
is a author.
Really?
Deepak Chopra, yeah.
So you're probably right.
What do you mean?
That he's not singing about a weed cookie.
Yeah, I think
Or
this
whatever.
is the one song that he's not.
I really thought this one was about drugs. Please continue. I'm very fascinated with what you're saying.
He also mentions Moses.
Yeah.
The Promised Land, like the Bible is another source of information, a great source of information. But yeah, it's I just found it really interesting, and I liked the line where he says, "I'm going where the weather suits my clothes." Like, it just kind of stood out to me. Like, that's an interesting thought. You don't change your clothes. You just go somewhere where the weather suits your clothes. Funny, interesting to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, this was probably like the oddest song on the album. And the lyrics are just really kind of like this, like I said, odd. And the feeling of the song is strange. I did find that the music aspect, it sounded like there was like some ukuleles in the background. Either ukuleles or like a high, like acoustic guitar playing like on the lower frets. So higher. So I found that was kind of interesting. That was probably the only unique aspect. I did kind of find the verse 3 interesting and cool. Though the lyrics were interesting choice. Like, this doesn't titillate me. I'm like, interesting. So I thought that was funny. That's my only interesting thoughts.
Caleb, are you the prince who wanted everything, or are you just going to talk about him?
If that means Rivers, then sure. Yeah, so the guitar's pretty cool. I don't hate this song at all. I think it's pretty decent. I like the melody of it, and it's just a fun song, especially more doo-doos. And yeah, it's a fun song.
So for me, the lyrics didn't catch me, didn't stand out too much. They were catchy. What really stood out to me was the music and the drums specifically. The drums feel like they are really pushing it compared to the rest of the song, which especially the downbeat on the kick. Like, if you listen to it, the drums are actually pushing or driving the song a bit faster than the rest of the instruments. So for me as a drummer, I thought that was very interesting because it is a technique that can be used if used right, and it can.
Did they use it right?
I feel so. Like, they didn't push it too far, because if you push things too far, like in terms of beat, it sounds off. But this was just slightly a bit more that it made it kind of was cool, because if you listen to the song, I feel like they could have played the drums a bit slower to match the rest of the vocals and the guitar. The vocals and guitars are sung at would feel like a more slower pace, but the drum are driving it a bit faster. So that's how I view it. That was interesting. I don't know if that was purposeful or not, but it sounds like it was because everything, how the drums were throughout earlier the song, where they're always on time, everything like this seems to stand out. So I think this was done intentionally.
I didn't write down much for this song. I feel like this was my least favorite on the album.
Oh my gosh.
I respect that.
Thanks.
I mean, it's the second worst.
I feel like this one and the previous one were probably the two worst. But they still weren't bad. They were fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if this has ever happened in Weezcast history. Me and Steven agree on the two worst songs on an album.
Nice. High five me.
Frig,
yeah.
That never happens.
Yeah, I don't really understand what it's about. It's kind of like the lyrics seem simple, but also like they're analogous to something more, and I didn't really feel like trying to figure it out. So it just the song didn't appeal to me. It wasn't good enough for me to want to figure out what he was talking about.
It's probably talking about rivers. That's what it seemed like.
Maybe. It seemed like it was talking about a rock band, like whether real or hypothetical. That like
Prince.
Yeah, that. Yeah, maybe Prince. Except, wasn't Prince dead by the time this album came out?
I don't know. Either
Maybe.
way, you can still sing about Prince even if Prince is dead.
Well, no, because he says, "Where are they now?" Driving red Corvette.
Oh.
Unless he means in heaven. Driving a red Corvette, maybe.
Oh.
Because
2016.
Okay, and this album came out in what, 2019?
19, yeah. It was either 19 or 18.
Yeah. continue.
Either way, yeah, it just seems like he's singing about a rock band, which is like, okay.
I don't like this song.
Wow. Shocker.
Is it because you're not the prince?
But something I noticed on the vinyl was the strings in the chorus that really add a lot. I have never once noticed them before listening to this album, but I noticed them now listening on vinyl, and they actually made me like the song a little bit more. It's a very repetitive song, and about 40 seconds in, I was like, okay, let's get to the next song. And as far as what it's about, I'm not 100% sure. When I was Googling it, I accidentally didn't type Weezer first, and it came up with children's storybooks. So I'm wondering if he just based it off of a children's storybook. Knowing how Rivers is, I wouldn't be surprised if one of his 2 children really likes the book, The Prince Who Wanted Everything, and so he wrote a song about it for his children. Because he does fun stuff like that. So it might be worth looking into. But again, like Steven said, the song's not good enough to really give a crap. But you know what? It's only complicated if you want it to be.
Ooh.
It's Byzantine.
It's Byzantine, baby.
It is. Can anybody tell me what Byzantine means? I know what it means,
Okay,
but I'm
is
wondering...
it like a city or something?
No, Steven?
Well, yes, but also...
Oh, yeah, that is right. It is.
Actually, it was an empire.
Yeah, the Byzantine Empire.
Yeah, they were like the
After the
Romans, after the Romans.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh yeah, Byzantine means excessively complicated.
Okay. Did you Google it?
I did Google it.
While we were listening to it?
Yeah.
You cheated. So did I.
Yeah.
Well, I Googled it before. Well, since all three of us... Wait, did you know the answer?
No, I knew like the Byzantine Empire, but I didn't know what the meaning of Byzantine means.
Okay, well,
thought it was
since Matt is the one who didn't know what it means, and I was going to let whoever knew what it means start, Matt, you started off, and we will work our way this way.
That doesn't make sense, bro.
But okay.
The lyrics were very creative and kind of strange in a way, but I did like the way that he wrote the song. Like, it really made you think. It's like, okay, so what is this about? The chorus is, I don't know, I liked it. It was very interesting. I'm just looking here in my notes. It almost had, I couldn't pinpoint down the vibe or the style of the song. There was one at the intro, the verse, felt like it would be something you'd almost hear in an elevator, and the other one felt like not quite Spanish, but I couldn't quite pinpoint. So I was like, I didn't want to say Byzantine, but I was like, it's not that. I was like, maybe more like not Asian music, but like there was a style that I couldn't quite.
I would say it sounds Spanish.
Like there was
I would say it's reminiscent of that.
I couldn't quite pinpoint it. I was just like, if there's something that's in the
like
back of my brain,
Hawaiian or something. I don't know.
something like that style. I just could not pinpoint it, but it kept bugging me. I was like, what does this make me think of? And I don't know. I just like that's throughout all listen. There was something in the back of my brain. I was like, this reminds me of something I can't think of. So that was interesting for me.
I know exactly what this made me think of. Spring album.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That actually
Listen
makes
to it
sense.
again. It's definitely spring album vibes. It could be on the album.
Except
It's got maracas. It's got the bongo drums. It's got
it has the same style.
Yeah, exactly. Same vibes.
He just doesn't like it. That's
I
why
didn't
he's
figure
going
that out until near the end of the song. I'm like, oh, that's what it sounds like. Like I was feeling the same way as you. Like this reminds me of something, and then I figured out it's a spring album.
which is also another Weezer album.
The music is great, obviously, because the spring album is great. The lyrics are questionable, and I really hate the way that he says in the first verse. I think it is ooh wee ooh wee. It's so disturbing. Like
Oh, do you mean the like high pitch?
No. When like during the chorus, there's background ooh you, which sounds good, but in the first verse, he talks about your sex appeal, the sex
And then
appeal
at
of
the
your
end.
dance moves, and then he says ooh wee ooh.
I didn't notice that. I'm gonna have to re-listen. Did you notice that?
I noticed it.
It sounds really awful, right? Like it's creepy.
That's hilarious.
I was looking at the lyrics and I saw that part. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like ooh wee ooh, like Buddy Holly, but
Nope,
no, it's
not
like
no Buddy Holly here.
Buddy golly, that sounds bad. The pre-chorus bugged me in the song because it sounded like he was singing off key. Every time the pre-chorus, it was like he was singing different notes than the bass was playing, and it didn't sound good. But other than that, it all sounded great. And yeah, that's all I have.
I like the vibe and the chorus of the song. And also, isn't Meteor just the bridge, like the background riff of, I think it's the guitar, doesn't the bridge sound like a Jackbox game? I don't know if you would remember
I'd have to re-listen.
But it legitimately sounds like from Joke Boat or something.
Yeah, there was something weird about the bridge, where like can't sound like a video game or something.
Yeah. So that's basically all my take on that. I mean, I don't hate the song. I just find it's fine. It's sketchy in ways.
I think the song has a fun Spanish vibe to it, but I don't really like the lyrics. And I notice in it he says it's not make believe. He's right, because if it was make believe, it would be infinitely better. Because make believe is I think it's the only album that we've all had the exact same rating on, right? That it was 5 out of 5.
Yeah. Well, our guest gave it a 4 point something.
4.8.
4.8.
Okay, but as far as the three of us, that's the only one that we all agreed. We all agree Make Believe is their best album, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
I didn't say anything.
So yeah, it's not Make Believe. It's the Black Album.
Still a great album.
Blacker than Make Believe itself.
Yeah.
Blacker than California snow.
Yeah.
That's
now. Does anybody know what California snow is?
It's Californian snow. Just kidding.
I'm gonna take a wild guess.
Because it doesn't actually snow in California. I don't think.
Is it drugs?
It's cocaine.
I wasn't gonna say.
Unlike the rest of this album, this song was released earlier than the album because it was on a movie soundtrack. Yep. This song was made for a movie soundtrack, and I believe that the movie had something to do with smuggling cocaine or something like that.
Is it Requiem for a Dream?
No, that's much older. But that movie's very disturbing, and I hate it.
I've never seen it, but I want to watch it.
If you want to never want to do drugs, watch it, because it's terrifying. Anyway, maybe you need to watch it after listening to this album. But yeah, this song was written for that movie, which has something to do with like cocaine smuggling or something. I think I never watched the movie, but yeah, so it's kind of written specifically for that purpose. And it's obviously it's more drug references on this album, so it kind of fits in with a lot of the rest of the songs. I really like the mix of piano and bass in this one, and even the synth in it. The synth is really extra, but it works really well. So overall, I like it pretty good. Matt?
Yeah, this song was interesting. The one thing that stuck out was like the music had the heavy electronic, almost like the space feel of it, which I kind of enjoyed that. I think this is probably the most heaviest electronic soundtrack or song in the whole album. I was kind of confused by verse 3. It's like the Judas reference. I'm like, right? What? I was like, what? Why is that there? It just doesn't seem to fit the whole song. It's like, oh, come on, Judas, give me a kiss, and then like, and nail me up by my wrist. I'm like, that's a Jesus reference. Why is that there? I was like, I don't know.
I'm guessing it's just like a reference to being betrayed
by
somebody, and then like making a comparison.
Maybe because they're in the drug world. I don't know.
If I had a friend named Judas, I would probably quote the song to him all the time, but in a joking way, because I wouldn't want him to actually give me a kiss, just because it'd be fun to sing with. Maybe I should edit that part out.
Okay.
I'm not gay. Continue, Steven.
The song sounded pretty good. The song made me realize that this album is about drugs and the Bible, because there's another biblical reference for the third time, and it's another song about drugs. So aside from referencing Judas's betrayal and the crucifixion, he also says you can solve thorny problems, which made me think of Paul's thorn in his flesh, which is like probably not a deliberate reference, because it could be. I don't know how well versed Rivers is in scripture, or it could have just been like thorny problem is
based on his theology in the seasons.
Verse 3 got me thinking, because he says, "No, never go against the family. When the root is strong, the fruit is sweet," which is a cool line. But it also, the very next line is, "Come on, Judas, give me a kiss," which makes me feel like he was betrayed by his family, or feels that way, which was like, oh, that's really interesting, and just made me think. But that's all I have.
Okay, Caleb.
So the movie is called Spell. That it's from.
Oh.
Uh,
Good fact.
yes, and I like the guitar in it, and also the synth, and the melody. It's just a great song to listen to, in my opinion.
Cool.
It's time for our final thoughts.
Yes, hooray!
Hurrah!
Let's build up to Matt's final thoughts. So my album thoughts. Side A is vibey, amazing, cool. It's an experiment, all right, and it sure works good. Side B carries on in a similar fashion, but does it poorly in comparison to Side A. It kind of gradually dissipates and loses its appeal. So if the whole album was as good as the first half, then it would be amazing. But given how good the songs are that are really, really good on it, and the songs that aren't really that good on it aren't absolutely terrible, they're just not really that good, I give it a 3.1 out of 5. Caleb?
Alright, well, I will say that drums and bass are a big highlight. Without as much as drums and bass as there is in this in this album, it would not sound as good. And also, this is probably the most of Weezer's album that I've gone without listening to it for the most time. So, and I've actually appreciated listening to it this time because I haven't listened to it in months for this reason. So I've really enjoyed it this time. It's funny because I have the exact rating as you. I think you said 3.5.
3.2.
Oh, well, I
I
said
thought it was 3.1.
Oh, it is 3.1.
I have 3.5 because mostly side A, but a few songs on side B, and this album has really grown on me.
Cool.
I wrote down that this, I think, is the first album since Make Believe that doesn't have a single song on it that I don't like.
That is fair. That's
No, I
fair.
thought you don't like Too Many Thoughts in My Head.
No, I did like that one.
Oh, you just didn't prefer it? It was the worst, but it was still
Like,
good.
that one and The Prince Who Wanted Everything were like, meh.
Yeah.
But they weren't bad. They didn't suck. I'd listen to them again.
Oh, hot take.
Yeah. I know.
It's not like space rock.
This album seems a lot more blunt and straightforward than they usually are. They throw out swear words. They very explicitly talk about drugs. And there's some analogies, but usually it's pretty clear what they're talking about. So I find it kind of interesting. And so overall, I give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Really? So one of your favorite Weezer albums?
I would say so.
That's wild to me.
Wow.
That's pretty phenomenal in an odd way.
See,
Matt?
you've had enough time to appreciate it. There you go.
And we do
You're
want to
getting
know
the
what
hang
your
of
favorite song on it was too,
Yeah.
as well. So
And so for me, this album was a fun poppy listen to from start to finish. It's something I would put into a car ride on a dark evening and just drive through on the highway. So it feels like it was meant for that. This solid drums throughout the whole track and bass really drive the energy. There's nothing that is too very different. So it's not like there was any song that stood out super much, a lot, where oh my gosh, that is my favorite song on the whole album. A lot of them seem similar in many aspects, different feel, but if you were to list when we listened to the whole track on the album together in one sitting, it's a lot of it seems similar, which is not bad, but there's nothing that was wow, that's very, 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 very different compared to the next one. But it was just a very enjoyable feel throughout. Yeah, so I think it was pretty good. I would rate it a 3.5. It's just a very easy listen to. For me, my main enjoyment was the drums. So I think if there was not that, I would have been very disappointed.
So no favorite?
Favorites, I would definitely be Zombie Bastards.
Hooray! I think that's my favorite on the album too. It's a really good one. You guys had the same rating too, eh?
Yeah.
Hey,
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, Matt, for being here for this episode. And thank you, everyone else, for listening to
Weezcast.
Join us next time for OK Human, I think, eh?
Okay, human.
All right. Peace out.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.